Hi, I'm Thomas Alexander. I'm the Associate Organist Choirmaster here at Christ Church. Thank you all for watching our live stream of our Bach concert. I'll be joined by Carolina Kipnis, who's one of our staff singers here at Christ Church. We had planned for this to be a live concert, but as other arts organizations around the city are experiencing right now, that we had to close for a public audience, but at least we can offer it live stream, and at least Bach is public domain, so we can do that without legal issues. So just about the music before we start, since we don't have programs in front of you. So we'll have 4 pieces total that kind of span the genres of Bach, especially for his sacred music. But you can kind of put Bach into 2 main camps. We have his sacred works and then the free works. So the sacred works are just that. They're pieces based on some sort of sacred text, like a hymn, or some sort of sacred poem, or some sort of theological concept. But the free works are just that. They're works free from any sort of theological connection. So the first piece will be a free work by Bach. It's a fugue in B minor. Normally Bach, with his organ works, you might come across his preludes and fugues. That's one of his favorite kind of mediums to work with. But a fugue in particular is a very specific kind of genre that he works with. So imagine a choir, and the sopranos come in singing a theme. We call it a subject in a fugue. But they start singing a theme in their own kind of upper range as sopranos do. And then maybe a few measures later, a few seconds later, the tenors join in, some of the men in the choir, singing the same subject, that same theme, just down in their own kind of range. And then the altos, and then the basses. So then you have this kind of tapestry weaving of all of these different parts chasing one another. Literally, if you look at the page, it's almost like they're all chasing one another. And in fact, fugue comes from a Latin word fugare, which means to chase. So there you go. So we'll start with the fugue in B minor, and then we'll go into a sacred work, a chorale prelude, based on those sacred hits or wounded, which if you have a hymnal, it's hymn 168. The chorale preludes were meant as a really practical means. Imagine here at Christ Church when me or Steve or I start playing a hymn, we may play through a whole verse and you have time to pull out your hymnal. They're kind of that, except the melody might be soloed out on a different kind of sound from the rest of the organ, or it might be a kind of creative way of introducing the hymn that kind of gives you a feel for what the hymn's going to talk about. But Bach really elevated that into a different kind of art form. Rather than just a practical means of introducing, it turned into a separate genre in itself. So the tunes of these hymns got elaborated and elongated to where almost it's impossible sometimes to even hear what the melody actually is. So imagine us doing an intro to a hymn that's like 8 minutes long. That just wouldn't happen at all. But anyway, Bach elevated that into this different kind of art form that's truly beautiful. So if you have a hymnal, it's 168, O Sacred Head Sore Wounded. The third piece we'll do will be both me and Carolina. It's from Bach's St. Matthew's Passion. So Bach was writing music in this time where oratorios were really popular. People were in church just a lot longer during the day. At that point, people might go to church that morning and hear one of Bach's cantatas, and then they might go home and have lunch, maybe not, and they would then come back that afternoon and listen to maybe a 2 or 3 hour oratorio. Think Handel's Messiah is one of them. So St. Matthew's Passion and his other one, St. John's Passion, are specifically oratorios that look at the Passion story that we at Christ Church do on Palm Sunday and Good Friday. That might have happened just like that on Palm Sunday or on Good Friday. They have the text from the Passion story itself, from the Gospel, interspersed with different chorales and religious texts that may not be from Scripture. So the aria that we'll be performing is Bus und Treu from St. Matthew's Passion. Carolina will give a translation of that before we start. The last piece that I'll do, the fourth one, is an improvisation, so not by Bach, but it's a tradition in especially German music in the Romantic era to base a composition on Bach's name. So what happens is if you take B, A, C, H and turn them into the note names in German, so B, in fact, is B flat, A, C, C, and then H is actually B natural. So it turns into a little melody on which you can base a piece. Franz Liszt did this, Schumann, Brahms, even Bach himself did it. He would, at the end of a piece, kind of sign off his name, B-A-C-H, by including that melody at the end of the piece. So I'll do an improv on Bach's name, and then we will be done. So thank you for joining us, and we'll start with the fugue in B minor.
From the first part of Bach's St. Matthew Passion. Pain and sorrow break the sinful heart in two, so the teardrops of my weeping may be a most soothing precious balm. Dear Jesus, I offer thee.
Nicht das in den Herzen frei.